Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to the Angel Rock on United Public Radio Network out of New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. I want to welcome you to my new time slot. It actually started last week, but I've been sick with this illness, which I'll address a little bit. But first of all, welcome. I will be in this spot permanently, which is from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central on Monday evenings live, as well as 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you've never been to my show, and if you're returning as well, welcome. But I say I cover all aspects of the supernatural, anything from UFOs to aliens, the actual paranormal, all the way into what I do in my regular life, which I will address in a second. But that could be how to access your own gifts, your intuition, energy work, healing, things like that. And the guests that I usually have on, tonight we don't have a guest, that's why I say usually. Guests that I have on come from all walks of life, but through their extracurricular or their professional activities, they are making a positive change for humanity. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a Canadian clairvoyant medium. I'm a crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher, and mentor. And I'm also a registered nurse. And I like to consider myself as well as a humanitarian and almost, I'm going to say, animal too activist. And tonight, I did have a great interview planned for you guys. This flu thing, I have had it since before Easter, has had me really down, having a hard time getting my energy back. And I wasn't actually going to go live tonight because I did pre-record an interview, but Spirit jumped in the way and uh, cut our interview off at almost the hour mark. So I spent all afternoon, I got it all edited, and then it wouldn't let me upload it back up. So I will get that interview to you. It's with somebody by the name of Garnet Schulhauser. I want to give him a huge shout out. He's actually a fellow Canadian, but he has a fascinating story. How it happened, as many of you have seen him before, and he has his own show, my partner in crime, whom I live with, as I call him, my partner in crime, the Dell. He has his own show, The Delicious Recipe, on Thursday nights here on UPRN at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I don't watch a lot of TV, but he does. And I'm usually multitasking. I'm still working on my resin store to get open and do a lot of creativity and creative stuff. And I happened to hear this podcast he was playing, and I thought, oh my gosh, I got to go sit down and watch this. Excuse me if I cough, I apologize. And I sat down and I watched this gentleman. And as I listened to his story, I was absolutely drawn in. And Garnet is from Saskatchewan, which is one of the provinces here in Canada, sort of closer to the west side of Canada. And he is a lawyer, and he worked in Calgary, I believe he said, for almost 40 years. And in 2007, he was on, I believe, his lunch break, and he was walking down the street, and he was stopped by a homeless man. He said he was your typical type of homeless man. He was dirty, he was smelly, stringy, greasy hair. And this man stopped to talk to him. And he said what drew him in were his eyes. They were the most piercing, brilliant blue eyes. And he said, I could feel this unconditional love radiating from this man. And I guess they just had a very short exchange, and then the homeless man seemed to walk off into a store, and Garnet said when he went to the store he couldn't find him, but he couldn't shake the feeling of this gentleman. Long story short, this homeless man is Garnet's spirit guide. He met him 3 times in person, and then they communicate telepathically. So that's what our whole interview was about. But he has done a lot of astral travel, and I kept saying to him during the interview, wow, the gifts you have received, including without a near death experience, being actually crossed over into heaven to meet up with his deceased mother and father, grandparents, brothers and sisters. I guess the whole purpose of this was his spirit guide, whom he names as Albert, has information that he wanted to share with Garnet, and he'd asked Garnet to share it with the rest of the world. And so Garnet never even considered writing a book. he was raised Roman Catholic, didn't identify with any type of religion, had sort of fallen away from religion, and compared to what he's doing now, his fifth book is just out now. It's called Dancing with Angels, and he's fascinating stories. We talked a little bit about it. These spider type beings and what their role was in the universe. And we talked about ET. We talked about other humans on other planets that are more evolved. Like we talked about what happens when you die. It was a really fascinating interview. So don't worry, I will be putting that up shortly, probably within the next couple of weeks. So like I said, I probably would have ran it tonight if my phone had cooperated with StreamYard. Excuse me. Yes, onto this disease. Holy cow, guys. You know what? I want to give a huge shout out. Well, first of all, I'm going to remind people, I see a few people that are watching live. Welcome, guys. I can't see your comments unless you're over on UPRN, or it will be under UFO Paranormal Radio on Facebook. I don't even know if the YouTube channels show up here. So I won't be able to see your comments, but if you're over on UPRN, or you can look it up that way on Facebook, or you can look it up under, like I said, UFO Paranormal Radio, I'll be able to see your comments, because otherwise I usually try and go after the show, because I am streaming this to my Facebook profile, my YouTube channel. It's also going out to UFO Paranormal Radio on Twitch, on Twitter, and I believe Joe Montaldo's page on Facebook. I would give him a shout out. He's the owner of this network and has many great shows. Also want to give a huge shout out to Michelle DeRoche, who has her own show with her co-host Amelia Pisano on Wednesdays and Thursday nights, The Outer Realm. I realized I forgot to put my background up, but we won't stop the show for that. We don't need any audio or technical issues. Because she's been very helpful, especially with me being ill. Hey, Howie, how are you? I'm so glad to see you. It's been a long time. Yeah, I was talking about, as I call it, the disease. Ended up coming down with this. I think it was April 12th, and was in bed for 2 weeks. It went through my whole house. And then my kids got it. Then I just was starting to feel a bit better. Still really no energy. And it came back with a vengeance last night. And my youngest son, same thing. Talking to other people, that's what I wanted to do. I was going to give a big shout out. You guys out there that have been so awesome. Yeah, I can't begin to tell you the amount of messages I've received, because I've been pretty well radio silent for the past month. And, so many people from all over the world, acquaintances, friends, asking, how are you, Laura? Are you okay? Haven't heard from you. And I really appreciate that. So thanks, everybody. I really, really do. Now, the interesting thing about hearing from people all over the world is everybody seems to have these symptoms. It's crazy. Now, there's a friend of mine, he may still be at work here, and he had an interesting theory. And again, I'm not trying to get all conspiracy theory here, but he said, I wonder if maybe something's being sprayed in the air. Because let's think about this, to talk to people in Australia who are going into fall and winter, and those of us in the Northern Hemisphere are in spring. Some places, depending on where you live, are quite warm. We're still getting a little bit of snow here and there. It's almost gone. It's so late this year for us. But for so many people spread out globally to be having these same type of symptoms, it's pretty strange. And thank you, Howie. Thank you for the prayers. I really, really appreciate it. So I thought, you know what, since we couldn't get this fabulous interview uploaded, which I will be putting out there, and I said to Garnet at the beginning of it, because we pre-recorded it, because he's busy on Mondays with other commitments. He's also a quantum health hypnosis. It's QHHT. It's called. He was trained with Julia Cannon, who is Dolores Cannon's daughter. His spirit guide, he said he's learned kind of to not argue with Albert, that when Albert asks something of him, he does it. And Albert asked him to train in this field. So we talked a little bit about that. Interesting question. Is it, are they terraforming our planet? I'm glad you're asking these questions, Howie. Because you know what, when my friend, if he shows up here and he says, hey, it was me that asked that question, otherwise I usually keep people's confidentiality if I haven't asked them first. But you know what, Howie, I gotta ask the same question, because when this person brought this up to me, because there's somebody we mutually know that's like 22 hours away by car from me, in like the very southern tip of southern Ontario, and they have very similar symptoms that went through their whole family. And then I mentioned that I knew people in Australia that were saying they were having the same thing. And they said, I wonder if they're spraying something in the air. My first thing I was going to type was no. And then I thought about it and I thought, I don't know. I can't say no. I can't, because, having a medical background as well, to have the same similar type of symptoms, and it starts out with a really bad headache. It feels very much like influenza. Most of us around my age have had influenza before. Excuse me. And it get, high fever, body aches, headache, and dry cough, really no runny nose or anything like that. And then it almost develops like into pneumonia. And like I literally was in bed, like you just could not get out of bed. All you would do is sleep. Like I didn't eat, barely drank for almost 2 weeks. And then, I finally was able to get out of bed. But like I said, it's taken a long time to kick this. And I'm not sorry, I know you're being so kind, Howie, with the prayers. I'm just explaining it, not for to complain. It's just it was fascinating to me when I'm explaining this that there's so many people that had the same symptoms. So are they terraforming the planet? I don't know. Now what's been on my mind is have you guys that are out there, if you're watching on the replay or listening, and I want to remind you too, I usually forget to say this, is our shows are carried wherever podcasts or talk radio are carried. So iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, StreamYard, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean. That's just a few to name a few. Please check out the replays. Please download them. Share them with your friends. We've got something for everybody on this network, between those that are syndicated and our regular Monday night, or not Monday night, all week hosts. You can tell my brain's not working as usual. But I wanted to ask people, are you guys, from where you are in your perspective, are you noticing reports of any increased paranormal activity, strange activity, or even UFO, or, what is it, unidentified flying phenomena? No, UAPs, it's called, and positive it is the new term, but it's the same thing. Because now I haven't had a ton of time to do a ton of research, but what I'm finding with those of us in the clairvoyant field, because I work with a few, I've been asked to, from one's in Mexico, one is in Canada, like myself, another close friend that's in Atlanta, Georgia. And it seems like those of us that are intuitive, all of us are intuitive, by the way, but those of us that are sort of in tune to that intuitiveness, it's almost like we're getting flashes of remote viewing, which is very strange. Now, again, there'll be people that'll argue with me, but I believe we're all capable of doing these things. And I'm going to read your comment in just a sec, Howie. Hey, Dave. Well, I'm back. I wasn't going to be. You missed the first part of the session or the show here, but my editing skills worked fine, but my phone wasn't cooperating. I was talking about this fantastic interview I had previously recorded on Thursday with Garnet Scholhauser. So I'm hoping to have that up in the next couple of weeks. I was going to put it up tonight, but it was not cooperating. So I said, well, we're just going to have a hangout tonight. And I'm going to get to your comment, Howie. But where I was going with this is I'm getting even myself. And can I do remote viewing? I've learned how to do it. Am I amazing at it? No. I know some people that are incredible. It just comes naturally. But other friends as well. And we've gotten some interesting stuff. A lot of stuff seems to be coming from Germany. And then the really fascinating thing, and Dave, you and I have talked about, and again, how I'm going to address your comment in just a second, is the North Pole. like something is hidden there and they're looking for it. Now, we had a session, there's 3 of us that get together, and when we had the session, it was just the 2 of us before I had gotten sick, and I almost felt from spirit, because the poles are switching, that what we're calling the North Pole is really the South Pole. Now, I don't know, that sounds crazy, guys, doesn't it? But something is being searched for there. Something, I don't know if it's a weapon. I don't know if it's supposed to help whomever finds it. But we're talking like black budget type people looking for this type of thing. I'm not sure what it is. Um, we've got some numbers to do with it. I think it may have to do with the ley lines. I'm not sure, but because we're getting bits and pieces. So why are we getting this? Like, why are we all getting, and again, normally I know for myself and a few other people that I've talked with or worked with that have access their gifts, that when you get a flash, you can usually almost, if I know the words aren't going to do it justice, but you can almost pick it out of the air, hang on to it, and unpack it. And whether you bring it into a meditation or, if you're able to communicate with your guides or what, it may not, come to you immediately, but over the next few hours or even few days, you can usually unpack that, if you will, and get more information. And that doesn't seem to be happening. It's really strange. Now, Howie, I'm going to put my glasses on here. Sorry. Okay, so about the paranormal activity, and Howie's in the paranormal field amongst many other amazing gifts that he possesses and the Rift Network. Howie, if I've got the name wrong, please forgive me, but as I know it, that's a network that you're with. And you said, no, we're seeing an increase in paranormal activity as well as aeropology. You might have to explain to me what that is. I don't think I know what that is. Howie, aeropology situations, especially over the last 4 days and pre-existing at least 2 weeks. I'm expecting it to actually increase in the more for the next 6 months. What's your thoughts on that, Howie? Why do you think it might increase? And if it's too long to type, hang on, I'm going to open Messenger. If you want, I don't usually do this. Can I open Messenger? Hopefully, if I disappear off the screen, guys, I'm still here. Hopefully, I don't lose you. If I do, I will. Please let me come back. Okay, good. Because if you want, it's too long to explain, you're more than welcome to say hi on Messenger, and I can send you the link how you can join me if you want, if you're able to. I don't know if you're at work, though. You might be at work too, but I know it's kind of unplanned, but if it's easier instead of typing, because I'm really interested to hear more about what your thoughts are. How about you, Dave? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? For anybody else out there, know quite a few people that are intuitive. Um, and again, whether they identify as sensitive or a psychic or a medium or what have you, yeah, a lot of people are feeling this. Now, the other thing, and it's really interesting because I've been quite involved with sharing information and, little bits and pieces and really trying to get to the truth. And I found over the last couple months, it's so distasteful. I'll get right to your comment in a sec, Dave. Very distasteful to me. It's almost like I don't want to see it and I don't want to feel into it. And all I keep feeling and hearing from my guides is that, and I always say I've got to walk the walk of the talk that I do. And part of my message is we need to focus on what we want to see, not what we don't. And that's what Spirit keeps reminding me of, because, depending on who we listen to or what we see, there's been a lot of people that have put a lot of gloom and doom out there. And I think that there are some situations that seem inevitable that could be coming up. But then again, I keep getting these flashes, and Spirit will say to me, remember, miracles happen every day. And they do. And, that's what I'm trying to hang on to. Not that I was obsessed or anything, but, I do share with a lot of different people, and I've just really pulled back. And I'm not the only one, from what I understand. There's quite a few people kind of pulling back from this, right? And the field that we're in with the energy here, energy can't be destroyed nor created. It can be transferred from one place to another. It's almost like people's energy really is focusing on, whether it's personal development, spiritual development, whatever the person's belief system is. And that's an interesting shift. So when we're talking about increased paranormal activity, is it the dark side, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it? Is it the dark side? Recognizing that humanity with awakening is really focusing on personal growth and development, personal development of our intuitive gifts, who we really are. Because that's another one of my messages. We have, we are capable of so much more than we've ever been told is even remotely possible. We really do have these gifts. And I've had some interesting conversations with my friend Paul Anthony Wallace. He's got the third in his book series out called Scars of Eden. I think it just came on to Amazon in paperback. I strongly urge you to take a look at those books. Incredible, incredible information, food for thought. But the reason why I bring it up, when his second book came out about 8 months ago, I always want to say escape from Eden, and I'm sure I've got it wrong, but they all have to do with the word Eden. But the reason I mention it was we were talking about how could there possibly have been a human 1.0 before that was too intelligent, was too developed, because we were going with the theory, did something from off planet? Was it here before? And, they develop humans to serve them, if you will. Now, it's an interesting theory. It's a little crazy, but if you can keep an open mind about it. But the reason why it kind of stuck with me was he said, so what if the first version was too evolved and intelligent to ever want to serve somebody else because of the gifts they possess? So, we became human being, if you will, Homo sapien 2.0, and they downgraded us. But he said, what if those switches, like a light switch, were still within the human brain? We only use, 10 to 20% of our brains, depending on who you're talking to. And what he had said is, if, say, you have somebody that's been in a coma, maybe a near-death experience, maybe they've hit their heads, and then when they come to, they possess some kind of incredible skill or gift that they've never, ever been able to do before the accident. So what we were talking about, and there is incidences of this in science, where, there's even a movie out there years ago with John Travolta called Phenomenon. He had a brain tumor, and all of a sudden he became this incredible intellect with the growth of the brain tumor. Or they see it where people are awakening from comas and never able to play an instrument, and all of a sudden can play concertos or speak all these languages or what. So the whole point I bring this up is what Paul was hypothesizing is, what if though that was all still there within the human brain, but all it needed to do was be switched on, right? But through whatever the accident and injury, what have you, the light switch got turned on. Because I believe we're all capable of psychokinesis. We are all capable of telepathy, and so much more. Sorry, Dave, I got off on a tangent there. You said there's a lot of interest in both the Arctic and Antarctic. Yes, there is. Now, I've always sort of more or less felt that there would be more interest in the Antarctic. Don't get me wrong, there's things that go on in the Arctic too. But even with reality TV, no, don't get me wrong, reality TV is not reality TV, nor does it cover, all of the Arctic. But there are series up there. I guess there's some families that have plots of land up there that once, I believe, their generation dies out, the land goes back to the government. But I wonder, what is it called? Again, Dell's the one that watches all these TV shows now, and some of them aren't very far right from the top of the Arctic Circle and what have you. So we do kind of get a bit of a glimpse about what's up there versus the Antarctic. Like, that is the place of mystery for me, because you hear little snippets of people that have been there or things that they witnessed, or Dan Willis. I haven't had him on in forever. I need to have him on, but he's testified before the U.S. government to the existence of extraterrestrials. I believe it was May the 6th, 2002, and it should have been world breaking news that there was just over 20 scientists that swore under oath. I think it was at the New York Press Club, to the existence of extraterrestrials, bringing evidence, personal testimony, pictures, what have you. And there were TV crews from all over documenting it. And then he said that night on the news, the last 10 seconds of the report was, the sneaky little laugh, like sort of sarcastic. Some people believe that extraterrestrials exist. Instead of that, should have been world breaking news. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. The more and more, and the older I get, though, and the things that I see, and you start learning about other cultures and history and what have you, that and I've kind of had this question for a while. And again, this is just my personal feeling, but I'm leaning more towards a yes with this question, that I think advanced civilizations absolutely existed before ourselves here in the way of humanity. And, we see some of this in the way of hieroglyphics with Egypt, just some of the technology, the building, the pyramids, what have you, that there's no way, if what we were led to believe existed in that time period, that it was possible to build the type of structures that we're seeing. Or Atlantis, right? Like Atlantis. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And again, I'm going to bring up this interview with Garnet Schulhauser, because we were talking about that. And again, the information he says that he got from his spirit guide, Albert, and then he got into the Council of Wise Ones. He went into the Hall of Knowledge, which I didn't get a chance to ask him. Now, again, I would call that probably the Akashic Records. Now, I didn't ask him because it could be a different place. And I want to say he said Cecilia was the head of the Council of Wise Ones. So I don't know. And I guess what he was told was, this civilization right here today, that we are the fifth ideation of humanity. And what we keep doing is we evolve, and we evolve quite a bit. And then through, not learning from previous historical events, we create the same mistakes over and over again, and we bring our civilizations to absolute demise, and then we have to start all over again. Interesting theories. I can't necessarily argue with them. I always say, just because I haven't experienced it or what have you, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Let's go back to the paranormal here for a little bit. I mean, excuse me, and I bring this show up lots if you watch my show, Nuke's Top 5. And the reason why I'm utterly fascinated by this YouTube channel is he sounds like he's from North America. I believe he lives in Norway. And he gets videos sent to him from around the world of the strange, the unexplainable, the frightening, from everywhere. And some of the creatures that have been caught on camera, and the reason why I'm a little bit more open-minded about it is, from following him for so many years, he very much seems to be a skeptic himself. And he really does try to debunk some of the things that are in there. And I know, for example, like it's not always paranormal. Like, he will tell you that it's not paranormal, but there's been really strange, creepy things that'll show up, say, on doorbell cameras and what have you. But the one that I remember in particular, now, if you're in the paranormal field, I'm sure you're quite familiar with this. It is the house of, his name was Chris, his name just escaped me. And he was a father of two little girls, I think Cece and Bella, and his wife was pregnant with his son. And he murdered them, all because he was having an affair. Now, he says he murdered them and made up some story. I mean, you can look up the case yourself if you want. But the interesting thing, and this is police body cam footage. You can see there's a little girl hiding behind one of the police officers, and she giggles. And then you hear EVPs, like before they even knew that the family had been murdered by the husband. Um, there was a canine unit that went in, two women, and you can hear an EVP of a voice saying, "This is our house." His wife's name started with a D. I think it was a D. She had very unusual. It was kind of an unusual pronunciation and a pretty common name. I want to say Denise or something like that. I can't remember. Sorry, guys, my memory's not working as it usually does. And there was there's a police officer and the canine unit, and she goes in with the dog, and they're in one of the little girls' closets. And again, they don't know that the family had been murdered already. And you hear a toy squeak, and the dog just like, you could tell it was like, what the heck was that? And then you hear a little girl giggle on the camera. And there's quite a bit on that. Now, the reason why I bring this up with Nuke's Top 5, for example, there was more body footage of when the police first came. I guess the deceased wife's best friend knew something was up, and she called the police, and they're interviewing Chris Watts is his name. That's what it was. So I knew it would come to me. They're interviewing Chris in the home because he says that they're missing. And the little girls of the best friend are there, and they're in Cece and Bella's bedroom, and they're playing with the toys, I guess. Oh, hi, Jamie. Welcome. And as they're playing with the toys, I guess people believe that there was a paranormal apparition of one of the deceased little girls, either Cece or Bella. And he purposely points out in that video that this is not paranormal footage and this is why, and points it out. But the one thing I had noticed in that video on Nuke's Top 5, he was talking about the little girl in the doorway playing at the play table with her back to the camera. But I actually noticed there was a little girl, you could see through her, peeking around the door, and he didn't notice it. But I have seen things on videos before that he hasn't necessarily picked up, and I know other people have too. Anyways, the reason why I like his channel, like I said, he's kind of a skeptic. He will debunk things if he fixes any of the audio, like tunes it up, or adds grayscale, or say FLIR or whatever. He will tell you that he's added that for people to be able to see what it is. I also like that he never tells you what it is. He always asks, so is it an elaborate hoax, or is it real? You decide. So I like that about him. But my whole point of bringing this up, and especially with the craziness that's been going on in the world, I have been seeing some types of paranormal things that I've never seen before. Like, don't get me wrong, depending on where you live, I know we see things geographically. Like South America has crazy things. Or my latest question has been, how come, whenever we catch paranormal activity, it seems, or people do, over in Asia, whether it's Japan or China or Korea or Taiwan, why does it always have to look like the girl from The Ring with the long black hair, the white gown? And again, yeah, there could be people faking it, but not every damn video is faking it. Same thing over, like I said, South America's got crazy stuff. Like I have seen, I guess you could call it the rape. I don't know what else to call it. There's a really infamous video. There was a farmer, he had a metal roof, and he kept hearing this like scattering, clunking noises, and he goes out with his video camera, and this thing's got this long, oh god, I'm getting goosebumps, long, skinny pin pipe head. It's all fleshy colored, no clothing, really long arms and legs. This thing was not humanoid. So again, why over there? But some of the things I have seen in South America, I've never seen, I've never heard of. And then he also has, like, he'll follow stories. Like if somebody's had some paranormal activity, like I said, if you've never seen Nukes, I encourage you to watch it if you like paranormal activity, because there's some crazy stuff that's been caught on camera. Now, again, it seems like there's been a lot more strange over the last year. Now, why? Is it because of globally, energetically, you've got this more lower negative vibrational energy? There's a lot of fear, there's anger, there's depression, there's isolation, there's sadness, there's illness. Is that's what's helping to manifest more negative things? Or, again, and that's always been another question of mine. When we do see, like I just mentioned, the girl from the ring over in Asia, do we see that because of the legends and stories that are told there and carried down from generation to generation, as well as, the movies and TV shows that come out? So is it almost like a tulpa, if you will, right? Energetically, many people focusing on or believing in or whatever, helping to manifest what they're focusing on. Or, the New Jersey Devil, if you will, just came to mind, or the Mothman, or, you've got these things, and people really are experiencing them and seeing them. But are they manifesting because of people's belief systems or what they're focusing on? Or one person says they saw it, so people start to research it and look it up and try and figure out what are they talking about. But because everybody's focusing on that one thing, it then comes to fruition. I don't know. Normally, I would have said yes a couple of years ago, but as of late, I don't know, because I'm seeing and hearing really strange, unusual things. So I don't know. Hard to say. Hi, Jamie. I didn't get a chance. I was right in the middle of a sentence. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for the rose. Um, excuse me. Yeah. So I don't know what things like, if you get a chance, leave me in the comments if you can. What are things like in your neck of the woods? Are you seeing more UFO activity? Like, that is one thing I have to say that I'm definitely seeing manifestations of on camera, on video. And then you get people that are skeptics and say, well, it's just because everybody has a camera now, that's why we're getting more activity. I don't know. I don't know about that, because, we've had phones for how long now? And all of a sudden we've got this big jump in UFOs and what have you. Now, is it because, again, speaking of a tulpa, we were supposed to have disclosure, about a year ago? We didn't get disclosure as far as I'm concerned, but people were focused on it. People were excited about it. People were expecting it. Or, I mean, and again, just my belief, but I think it would be pretty arrogant to assume that we're the only living beings in the universe. So if there is other life, which I believe there is, are they coming to kind of help energetically? I mean, you get into the whole, again, like I said, I can't wait for you guys to hear this interview with Garnet. And I asked him at the end if he would come back, and he said yes, because, I mean, he was talking to me about these spider beings that kind of looked a bit humanoid, and I won't give it all away, but what their role was. And then what was fascinating to me was that there are actual, basically just like humans, but in other galaxies and universes. And yet they have no negative emotions. And so we got into quite an interesting discussion, because my belief is that you think about it as a human being. When things are amazing and they're wonderful, we've all had situations like this. Maybe you're newly in love, like maybe everything in your life's just going wonderful. Like, you just got the dream job that you were hoping to get. You've just moved into the house of your dreams. Maybe you just bought yourself this amazing, whatever, right? Everything's beautiful, wonderful. And how many times have any of us ever said, oh my God, I wish this could go on forever? I don't want a thing to change, right? So, nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful state to be in. But unfortunately, and it's kind of a sick joke if you really look at it, but when human beings grow, when they evolve, when they learn, whatever that may be, it usually comes out of something with adversary, sadness, heartbreak, pain. And again, as human beings, and I believe we have free will, we have the choice to just sit with that energy. And we've met many people like this in our lifetimes that victimhood becomes their story, it becomes their life, it becomes who they are for whatever reasons. And I don't say that with judgment because some people just, grief is a very personal experience and there's no timetable for grief. So, whatever that may be. But then again, you see human beings that, because of horrible things they've gone through, have done incredible things because of that experience. For someone saying, I don't want anybody to ever experience what we went through, they've created amazing organizations, inventions, you name it, right? So, my whole point of saying this is if there are human beings that are highly evolved, very much like us, because I even asked, like, as far as you knew, were they genetically and biologically just like us? Yes, except he said they were able to eat whatever they wanted because they had discovered what caused weight gain. So I guess they just had to take this supplement, if you will, and they could eat, drink, do whatever they wanted, and there was no disease. There was obviously no obesity. There was no illness, and everybody looked around the same age as grown-ups, all at the peak of perfection, if you will, the best they were ever going to look. Um, and they never aged. And they lived, I think he said, for, I think, at least 2 centuries. So my whole point is, and I said to him, don't get me wrong, I would love to see a world without hatred, anger, jealousy, things like that, narcissism, whatever it may be. But if everybody's just walking around in la la land, happy all the time and full of love and light and joy, and I don't know, would life get pretty boring? That was my question. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, don't get me wrong. It's amazing when everybody gets along, everybody loves one another, you never grow old. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like what some people might actually consider utopia. But if we're really here as an eternal soul, which I believe we are, here for a brief moment in time because we are eternal. So our time here on Earth, or Earth School, as Garnet was calling it, and I have to agree with him, that we're here to learn lessons to help us evolve and grow our souls. I don't know, like, what would life be like? What do you guys think life would be like? I don't know. I think it would get boring after a while. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that likes drama. I rarely get angry. And if I do, I usually don't scream. I don't scream and yell. I'm not a physical person. I usually process it in some other way and try and let it go. And, I like to be around like-minded people like that are pleasant to be around, that, you could have a discussion. You don't necessarily have to agree, but you're willing to listen to each other's point of view. But my whole point is if we really are an eternal soul having a brief human experience here, what about when, if you on these other planets as a human being, supposedly, how do you learn? How do you grow? I don't know. Or is it just me maybe trying to wrap my human mind around the fact that maybe there's other things to grow and learn? Like maybe, I don't know. So you see why I want to have, well, I know I'm just giving you tidbits, but there's reasons why I want to have them back. Now, again, is it the be all to the end all? No, but we were finishing each other's sentences with a lot of things. Like we actually got into the discussion about the belief system about hell, or human beings who blame God, say they've lost a child or somebody they love deeply that they've lost. They've lost, and I've met people that blame God and what have you. And then he said, I said something very interesting, and we started to grow with that. And I won't give it all away, but I said, I've just recently seen somebody, I forget how it was, it was either channeled back or it was a near-death, I think it was a near-death experience. And they said when they passed away and they looked down upon themselves and the life that was here, they could see it all like a big giant play. That each of us was in the center of our own play, and the actors that were around us to help play out the scene, and the actors waiting in the wings to come in and keep the whole play going, and how incredibly simplistic it was to be able to look at it from that reference point when the person had passed away, transitioned home, as I call it, or gone into the afterlife before they transitioned back. It wasn't their time to go. But the whole thing I'm saying here is, he said how incredibly difficult it was when they were living this life, when they were in the thick of it, versus when they had passed away and been able to see it really just like a play. But the whole reason I mentioned that is because it got into an interesting discussion about the human perspective that human beings have about justice and punishment and hell. So, like I said, I can't wait to get this interview out to you guys to watch. Only thing is, and I'm working on it because we can't do it, but I think we need an extra program or software. I may be able to hang out in Facebook while I'm streaming it to have a conversation with you guys. But so there's really interesting topics that we touched on and what we talked about, and there was so much more to discuss. Hello, I say Robe Nobe the troll. I hope you're not a troll. You're welcome to be here, number 77. Hello. So Dave said that's if it only involves two people. Or you said, I believe in consent. If both people agree, the possibilities are fully open to you. That's true. And then you said that's if it only involves two people. Actions taken that involve more than two people require the consent of all parties involved to be in accordance with the universal law. True. Hang on. I just realized I told Howie to send me a message, and then I got yapping. I had a funny feeling. Now, I could be wrong. I think Howie Odell, he's up. He joined me early on. I think he's probably at work. I hear what you're saying, Dave. So actions taken that involve more than two people require the. Okay, so there you go. Yes, I agree with you now that I'm really focusing on that. But this is where. Okay, I'll get this part away. And Garnet kept saying, excuse me for a minute. It is so interesting and fascinating that you're mentioning this analogy. And he said, here's why. And he said, because my spirit guide, Albert, was explaining that when and I do believe this, working as a medium as well, that we're not in a true fifth dimension or higher form, if you will, here on Earth, right? We're coming from a human perspective, but when we go back to source, or transition back home, as I call it, we have a different perspective. We can see the whole picture, if you will, whereas we may not necessarily be able to see it as a human being on this planet right now. And the analogy he used, or Albert used, his spirit guide, was if we go to a movie or we go to a play, okay, and in the play, somebody plays a murderer, and say the play Jack the Ripper, the person that plays Jack the Ripper, the horrible things that they do. Once the play is over, okay, nothing happens to the actor that plays Jack the Ripper. Now, his whole point was, and the analogy he was trying to make was, if going through this and being able to see it from that perspective, when you transition back home or back to source or go to heaven, whatever your thoughts are, and everything really was just a big play. And I hear what you're saying, Dave, about the laws of the universe in accordance with universal law and what have you. Yes, but there's huge things and people and parts that need to be played out for everything to fall into place. So hard to wrap, I know myself, my mind around it, because, you know, we have time as human beings to help make sense of a lot of this. Anyways, where I was going with this is, and I it was food for thought for me with Garnet. I've actually was thinking about it today. So he said, if nothing really happens to that actor that helped play their part in the play so that the Jack the Ripper play could be presented for whatever reason, right? So if life here on Earth, when you go back home, I'll call it, and it looks like a big play, and you can see all the actors that are part of that play. And this was actually somebody's description they had written that I had read. And I went, yeah, I could see that. And then he said, all the actors waiting in the wings and the shadows to come in and play their parts and help everything, you know, fall into place. He said, this whole point with Garnet, and I'm not doing it justice, Garnet will do a lot more justice, is that how is that any different? That if you really were an actor helping to fulfill that person's personal play, right? Once the play is over, right? The play is over. So his whole point, what he was saying was the person that's done the bad thing, if they were playing a role here, because he was calling it Earth School, and so when they go back, they played the role. It's over, it's done with. And again, I know this isn't going to be to everybody's liking and everybody's cup of tea and everybody's belief system. And I'm not telling people what to think. It was just an interesting perspective to look at it. So you also said, yes, there's karmic law. Yeah, there is. Now, again, Dave, those are our beliefs, right? I always say that, and I know Michelle DeRoche, we've had some interesting conversations when we used to have the paranormal discussion panel about, I don't think any of us are really going to know what all the answers are until we go back home. So as we believe it, as we've learned, as we've read, as we've studied, maybe it's been mentors we've worked with, there's, you know, whomever it's been, we've learned about karmic law, we've learned about universal laws, we've learned about all that. But does it necessarily mean that all of that is true? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, because I also believe in karmic law, I believe in universal laws, but my whole point for food for thought is, I don't think any of us will see how this all fits together, the big puzzle, the big picture, right? Until we transition and go back, like I said, to source, whether you want to call it heaven, across the veil. I call it going back home. So it's whatever, right? It starts getting really deep there, if you will. Because she said, yeah, there's also karmic law that needs to play out. There's also spirits that can come into avatars and experience a play. Well, actually, we talked about walk-ins. We talked about walk-ins versus a little bit about near-death experiences. Like I said, it was a super interesting conversation with a lot of food for thought. And I wanted to get more into, you know, some of these characters. Like I said, he talked a little bit about Albert, his spirit guide, but I wanted to ask him more questions about this Council of Wisdom. And he said the Council of Wisdom, and he's not the first person I've heard this from before either. Somebody by the name of Jamie Butler, she does, she has a YouTube channel called The Lighter Side, and she actually channels two of her spirit guides, Maitland and Grace. And I believe that Grace is part of that Council of Wisdom and what their role is. And it was just very interesting, some of the stuff he was saying. It was almost word for word what I had heard Jamie channel. And it was when we're coming from our higher self, if you will, and we're going along, and I'll use Grace's description. And Grace is Jamie Butler's one of her spirit guides, very stately English lady. And she was saying that, you know, we want to make the most of the experience when we come down here to Earth, because what we're coming here for, according, to Grace and speaking with Garnet about Albert, we're coming here to make the most out of our experience, to learn what we can learn here to help our souls grow and evolve. And Grace is one of those ladies, she said, and Garnet was also addressing this, that these council of wise ones are there to help us um, pick and choose. They're never told you can or you can't, but they're there to kind of help you maybe see the perspective. Because I guess from what it's been explained is we tend to pile a lot of things on our plate because we want to make the most of the experience that we're having when we reincarnate back on this, in Earth. And so think about it, like some of the things that we're going to experience to help us grow and learn. We're going to have a pretty difficult life. So they're there to kind of counsel and advise you and remind you that, this may all sound great. This experience you've designed and created, and you're going to learn all these things, but you've got to live that life too, right? It's very easy to stand from the outside looking in, that yes, when I'm born onto this planet, I'll be born into poverty and a dirt hut, and I'm going to learn about hunger, and I'm going to learn about this, and I'm going to learn about that. You see what I'm saying? So it's interesting. Yeah, it's great to have help. So that's what Garnet was sharing. Now again, is he the be all to the end all? Well, he said, yeah, they're guides, not just your guides. So he said this was a special, and it was interesting that he brought this up because it is the first time I've heard it. He said I think he called them the Council of Wisdom. And again, they can't tell us what to do. They're there to, yes, give us some helpful suggestions, and you know maybe help us see from the perspective of, there's no easier way to say this, that yeah, it may seem all wonderful and well up there, but when you're born into this type of life, you got to live it. And again, it seems like a long time that we're here on this planet, but if we really are eternal beings, it's literally like the blink of an eye, what, 80 years? And that's a longer life versus some people don't live that long. So you said there's also spirits that can come into, avatar, sorry, and grateful to have helpful suggestions. Yeah, it is. So it was certainly some food for thought. And again, may not be everybody's cup of tea, and it's certainly not to tell anybody what they believe in is right or wrong. It's just somebody else's perspective to share, to hear other people's belief systems. That's why I like being a podcaster, though, is to hear what makes people tick. Excuse me, what makes them passionate? Why did you get into what you got into? Um, what makes you keep doing what you're doing? And I usually find that it goes by pretty quickly for most people, because you're talking to the person about what they're passionate about. And who knows yourself better than yourself, right? When you're talking about your work, or talking about, when you spend your extracurricular time with, like I said at the beginning of the show, through the extracurricular or professional activities of whatever the person is doing, that they're helping to make a positive change through humanity. So certainly, you can hear I'm starting to lose my voice here. I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, if you missed it, that a friend of mine, I didn't say their name unless they wished to share that. I didn't ask permission, but they had asked me about whether or not maybe what I have, and I was talking to people all over the world actually recently, and no, do I know everybody in the world? No, but having friends from Australia and Italy and England and South Africa and Korea and all over, and talking, and there's so many people that seem to have the same type of bug that I've had forever. And this friend had suggested at first, maybe there's being something sprayed. And my first knee-jerk reaction was to say, well, no, because we both mutually know somebody else that has this. And they're about 20, 22 hours away by car from where I live. And then as I thought about it, before I even answered, I realized, holy crap, like I'm hearing, like I said, people over in Australia having the same thing as, what I've come down with, what other people have come down with. So I don't know. And I think you might have missed some of that, Dave, and anybody else that's hanging out there. I see your numbers there again. If you are making comments, say over on my Facebook page or anywhere else, the only place I can see the comments is over on UFO Paranormal Radio, the Facebook page. You can find it under UPRN, or if you look up UFO Paranormal Radio. That's how I can see Dave's comments, because otherwise I have no idea why the comments are not showing up here. And then I usually have to go back afterwards, after the shows, and check them out, because there's usually some pretty interesting discussions going on there. So, like you said, it would be. I'm just reading your comments again. So, with the rest of you guys that sort of popped in, actually, we did see somebody from YouTube, Mr. 77 Gronob the Troll. So, feel free to pop into the discussion, or Jamie's on. We had Chasing True Shanji. Hey, welcome. Nice to have you here. So, like I said, it's an interesting conversation, interesting food for thought. And again, I still didn't hear too much from people in the UFO field. If you're out there or if you're watching this on the replay, let me know what your thoughts are. Because I don't know, we're seeing some strange stuff in the skies. Now, is it just technology that's out there that we're not aware of? Or is it actual UFO? Because again, and I know I keep talking about this, but I just did this interview. When Garnet and I were talking about some of the ET experiences he'd had, we were kind of finishing each other's sentences because he, through his spirit guide, was taught about, if you will, I'm not going to sound like I'm talking about Star Trek, but Prime Directive and the Galactic Federation that doesn't allow interference with what's going on this planet. And because we're here to learn, and it's such a short experience versus, when you look at eternity, it really is like the blink of an eye. And I have actually ran across information like that. Now, again, is it right? I don't think any of us are ever going to know all the answers until we transition back home. And then again, why all of a sudden remote viewing? Again, I mentioned my friend Paul Anthony Wallace. We talked a little bit about remote viewing too. So why does this seem to be surfacing with people that are a little bit maybe more in tune with their intuitive nature, or if you believe yourself to be clairvoyant or what? Why remote viewing all of a sudden? Love to hear your thoughts out there. Like, what do you think it is? Like, who's sending it? Where are we getting this from? Like, and again, I'm talking about people that I know that don't remote view, or if they do, it's very unintentional. They just get little bits and pieces and flashes. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, do I know how to remote view? Yes. Do I use it intentionally? No, because the process that I've learned, um, you have to get into a hypnotic state, and then there's a lot of sketching involved with it. And, some of the practice sessions I've been given, it's like a 15 to 18 digit number, and that's all you have. And through the process, you need to figure out what that is referencing, that number. So it could be a place, it could be a city, it could be an object located somewhere, or what have you. But the reason why I bring that up, though, I seem to be running into more and more people that feel like they're actually remote viewing. But again, they're just getting little bits and pieces, like they're maybe in a room and they're getting a flash of something versus really any information or what have you. So I don't know. Lots of strange stuff going on our planet. Now, most of you probably have much nicer weather. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I'm in Canada. I know I don't live in the North Pole or an igloo, but I'm about 35 minutes away from the Minnesota border. And for those of you that know where Minneapolis, Minnesota is, I'm about 6 hours north of Minneapolis. And what I can't believe is the amount of snow we have gotten this year. Like, seriously, the snow we have gotten this year has been more this year than we've probably had in the last 6 to 8 years. And it still keeps coming. We did have rain yesterday. Now we've had some flooding, which is unusual because where we live, the ground's actually pretty high up, and our basement actually had some flooding. And because the ground's still not permanently thawed, there's, the rain's coming and then the water's all over the place. And then I don't know where you guys live or not, but we have potholes the size of huge craters in the ground. And then the worse the winter is in the way of the snow and the freezing and the thawing, the worse it gets. Like, literally, it's like navigating a minefield. And if you break something, like I think we've cracked something on our car hitting a pothole, the city does not pay for the repairs. Yet it's not like we could run around with some asphalt or asphalt, however you want to say it, in the back of a wheelbarrow and just start patching up all the potholes. That because the city has to do that, right? Yet the roads, it's just crazy. I've never seen it. And like I said, we're on May the 2nd here. Usually by this time of year, the Dells family's camp, or some people may call it a cottage, the snow's almost melted out there. And, we're almost ready to start going out to the cottage for the summertime. I haven't even fathomed a guess about how bad it is, because the cottage where he's in, his family's cottage, it's like a basin. It's called Oliver Lake, and it's one of the world's deepest, cleanest, clearest, spring-fed freshwater lakes. But for example, now to get to the camp from where we live, it's probably about 15 to 25, 30 minutes, depending on traffic. And it could be thunderstorming here and raining. And by the time you drive out there, it's all sunny, beautiful, and warm, or vice versa. So we usually find that the snow takes longer to melt. And the side that Dell's family's cottage is on, there's only 5 families versus the opposite side of the lake. There's tons of people there, so the road is plowed and stuff. So I don't know if we're going to have a late cottage start this year or what. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Can't wait to get out there. So, some of the strange things I've talked about, for example, the weird thing about the cottage, when you drive down there, you drive down the road, there's all kinds of people on the main paved road, and there's a boat launch and a public beach. And then you turn, and it's a little bit of a dirt road. It's about 3 minutes up. The minute you make that turn, this is going to sound really strange. It literally feels like you're entering a different dimension. Like, the energy is different. Everything is different the minute you turn off the road. I don't know what it is. It's crazy. It's beautiful. The only thing, I wish we could live out there all summer. The internet isn't that great on that side of the lake. The other side of the lake, no problem. But if we had better internet, I swear to God, we would live out there all winter, all summer. It's so beautiful out there. It really, really is. It's just, I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I could say that the energy is that palpable. Like, literally, as soon as you turn away from the public beach and turn down there, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. So we'll have to see what adventures the cabin and cottage hold this summer. So our summers are just, well, usually they're a little longer, but like I said, by the time we get out there, it's probably not going to be till the end of May or beginning of June, but we're already in May. That's another thing I want to ask you guys. Have you noticed this too? Time seems to be passing so much more quickly and faster than I think I can ever say in any lifetime. Any lifetime. No, in any of the years of this lifetime, I should say. God, I sound like a space cadet tonight. Um, because, okay, so tonight's Monday night. I swear, by the time Friday comes, it will feel like I've blinked and it's already Friday. I don't know if you guys are experiencing this or not. I don't know what it is. It's crazy. And it seems like it's been this way now for the last couple years. And am I busy? Yes. But I can't say I'm more busy than I've been, say, in the past 5 years. So I don't understand how it's going by so quickly. I have no idea. So it's so interesting. I mentioned Australia tonight. And you think about it, we've had winter time. Not everybody has. I know we have. And we're going into spring here and summer, and they're going into fall and the winter. So I don't know. I just find that so strange when you think about the weather, so opposite. He said Matt LaCroix is suggesting it's because the sun's binary star is very close now. It happens every 13,000 years. Interesting. So Dave, he thinks that time is passing more quickly. So if if I understood you correctly, because I've seen this actually asked by a few, because I watch YouTube while I'm working on resin and things like that. And there's been a lot of different channels asking the question that they feel they've been asking what's causing the Mandela effect, or the other one that's been quite common is why does the Mandela effect seem to be increasing? So I'm guessing maybe it's the same reason. And he said he would be a great guest, Lorilei. He and Paul Anthony Wallace have a video up on YouTube together. Oh, I'll have to, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave. I should ask anybody else that if you've got any ideas or anybody you want me to have on the show. Please feel free to reach out to me privately or you can put it in the comments. And then Dave says, yes, the energy that goes into the Earth system is greatly increased and it alters time. Interesting. Because it's, again, it's very palpable. Very, very, very palpable. So I don't know like I said, normally, yeah, sometimes time will drag and sometimes it'll go by quick. Like it literally feels like blinking and the time is gone. That name Matt LaCroix sounds really familiar to me, Dave. I'll have to check him out. Well, like I said, with this Garnet, Vidal was playing an interview with him and he couldn't remember who it was. I kept saying, you were watching this interview the other night. And I said, I came in and sat down and watched it because it was so interesting. And then I thought to myself after the interview, I should reach out to this guy and see if I can get a hold of him. Okay, this is just scary because you have, when you're out there putting yourself out there, you end up with a lot of people like-minded on your friends list on social media. Yet you may not necessarily know personally. So I'm looking up Garnet, looking up all over the place. And I see he's on Facebook. So I go on Facebook. Garnet was on my friends list. So that worked out good. Well, I'll probably be able to get a hold of Matt. You'll have to let me remind me, Dave, and message me. I don't know if I'll be online tonight. I almost didn't do a show. I've been working on the editing of my video with Garnet because Spirit decided there was no other explanation. We pre-recorded the interview and all of a sudden everything cut out. Everything. And he dropped out of the interview. I couldn't get him back on. So I sent him another link. We tried everything. It took us about 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, it worked. I kept sending him the link to StreamYard. Kept saying he was in the room. Got him to close the page, reopen the page. And then it came up. And we pre-recorded. So I could have played both the interviews for you guys. But I didn't want to lose people with the fact that the interview starts playing, goes great, and then I think it's about 57 minutes. All of a sudden, everything freezes up. And then people are going to think, oh, Okay, the interview is over. So I downloaded it and edited it. It wasn't a problem, but couldn't get it to re-upload. So I will, like I said, get that upload in the next couple of weeks, and we'll play it. And that's kind of the nice thing is that with people across the pond, instead of having to get up in the middle of the night or what have you, or have prior commitments, especially when my show was later, that was a real problem for people. Um, so we may have some more pre-recorded interviews with people. I have a ton of people to get a hold of. So Dave, you said he's awesome. Yeah, his name sounds really familiar. Um, you said yes, the energy that goes into the earth system is greatly increased and it alters time. Yeah, because like I said, I've never noticed it quite like this. Like this is super fast. You said Matt is awesome. I'm trying to connect with him for Tessa? I don't know who that is. You said, sure. Yeah, I'll send you a message. Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of him because I think I might have a way to do that. So, um, excuse me. Sorry, guys. I was saying at the beginning of this show, Dave, you weren't quite there. This thing just comes back with a vengeance. As soon as you start doing anything. And that's what happened at our house today. And then I talked to my kid, and it's all back at his house too. So I guess, like I said, something's got to be in the air or whatever for this many people to get it from all over the world. And some people are testing and some people aren't, and they're getting varying results, even though they may be in the same household. Now, again, that's a whole different show for a different time. But the whole point is for this to direct, it's definitely feels like influenza. And then it's almost like it develops into pneumonia. So it's very, very strange. You can't get your energy back. Like you're just dragging your butt. And like I said, I've been talking to people all over the world with it. So there's definitely something strange going on that maybe with the way it's interesting that you brought up the sun's energy, Dave, because again, I wasn't looking for it, but it came up in my YouTube feed. Um, it came up about something strange was going on with the sun's energy. It said brace for not, I think they were meaning facetiously brace for impact, but there was something interesting. The other thing I was going to mention, guys, and I was having this conversation, I forget who I was having it with privately, but wow. And now, don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of distractions out there to get humanity to be looking in different directions versus maybe doing their own inner self development, inner self research, outer self research to see what's going on, what's the truth, what's not. But, most of us that are just everyday people, right? Go to work, do whatever, and that's it. And depending on who you talk to, people think they have the worst life out there. Life is awful, not, they don't have enough money, they don't have enough this, they don't have enough that. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been following it that closely. But I did in the beginning, and I couldn't watch it anymore. Was this Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? And just even the change in perception out there that, I was actually saying to the Dell, him and I have nothing to hide. We're nobody. We're not famous or anything like that. But I still said to him, I wouldn't want to be airing my dirty laundry out in front of the whole world for the whole world to see. But the whole point of that is, to have to put that kind of information and that kind of energy out there in front of the world, right? And there's so many people that look up to celebrity or, literally worship or idolize celebrity. And then you see, really, that's something I say very often is you never know what goes on behind closed doors because wow, 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 wow. Now, you know what? I really do hope, and again, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I've always said this is, I don't think anybody should be hitting anybody. And I, people can call it my opinion, whatever you can call it. If you're a full grown adult, I don't think anybody should be hitting anybody. And I just don't. And I know so many people that have been in this situation. And the whole point I'm trying to make here is men that are battered men and, keeping their mouth shut. They don't say anything. Some of the testimony that's even come out of there with supposedly Amber Heard saying, you just go ahead and try and tell the world that I hit you, like they're going to believe you. And, there's pictures. I mean, the guy had the end of his finger almost cut off. There's pictures with a cigarette burn in his face that she gave him. Security testifying. I mean, every little thing this guy has done, including his very difficult sounding childhood and what have you, to have that all have to be put out there just so you could prove that you're innocent. When you think about it, like once upon a time ago, it was supposed to be that you're innocent until proven guilty. But I mean, you look at again, and the reason I bring this up is I don't know if you can go with more money, more problems, or what have you, but here's somebody who looked like they had everything. And then the only way to clear their name is you have to put every little dirty secret or every little thing you've ever been through out there to clear your name. And for what reason? I mean, these two have been, I think, not together since 2016, and you're still going through it 6 years later. Dear God, dear God. And I guess I don't understand it. I don't, and I don't think I'm naive about things. I've been with people from all different walks of life in the way of working as a nurse or, personally meeting people, whatever it is. But I've never understand that again, that actually came up in that interview with Garnet about these other supposed ET civilizations trying to understand why we were the way we are. And he had said, he had asked them, the civilizations, through his spirit guides, it, well, how were they able to evolve away from violence, aggression, jealousy, rage, anger, you name it? And I forget how he found out, but the civilization basically said, no, this is something you need to discover for yourselves. But my whole point is, I think he had said that it's one gene or genetic anomaly that this version of humanity, I guess, the human race on this planet, hasn't learned to. I think he said there had to be some kind of genetic splicing or something to splice this gene out. And this is how this human civilization, I guess, greatly evolved, and we're in other parts of the universe. So I don't know. My whole point is I've just never understood that. Like why people need to hit other people. It just has never, ever, ever made any sense to me. I guess it just kind of breaks my heart. That's all. Like, what a horrible, again, I don't have anything to hide, or does anybody else, but still, you wouldn't want your whole life out there for the whole world to see just so you could prove yourself innocent. You should be innocent, right? I mean, I know it's idealistic going through the judicial system, but with this, the way civilization has evolved and really skewed, I think, within the last 4 to 5 years. I don't know, just kind of broke my heart. That's all, you know? And then for how long? Again, is it just a distraction? I don't know that many people that are watching it or even listening to it, but it's always bothered me because somebody I know was falsely accused, a male friend of mine, of domestic violence, and they never laid a hand on the significant other. They ended up going to jail and everything. And again, who do you help when you do that? Because there are people that really are victims of things like this. So I don't know. We're getting kind of into the deeper things in life here. Now, again, is this what's going on energetically that's influencing people, or what is it? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm sure if there really are ET, which I believe there are, and they're looking down on this planet, I'm sure they're just like, what the heck are these organisms doing to one another? Because it's just insane. Or again, I don't know, Dave, does it maybe have to do with the energy from the sun? I don't know. Is it, Dave's been on the show before with astrology. You said we're entering the age of Aquarius. Is it the age of Aquarius where we're going with the way we are, you know, energetically? Again, I don't watch a lot of TV. It's not even energetically, it's developmentally because everywhere you said it has to do with the conditions of the solar system. Yes. Yeah, it has to, Dave, because um, again, I don't want to watch a lot of TV like I was about to say, but every TV show that's out there, it seems that it shows this little petite 5 foot nothing woman, all of about 70 pounds soaking wet. And she's the butt kicker, if you will. She is the hero. She is the captain. She is this. She is that. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, I guess, for, women have thought for centuries to want to be able to, well, I would at least just say regarded equally. But the fact that I just think it's such a misrepresentation, and instead of embracing the differences between, um, and I'm not going to get into gender here because I mean, there's people that have really even split hairs with that. But what I'm saying is there's differences between, and for discussion's sake, we'll say the two, male and female. And there's things that women are good at, and there's things that men are good at. But I guess what worries me is when you have this kind of programming on television and movies and video games and music videos. So my hope anywhere is it fills youth's minds with the ideation of that. So I've even seen it, we get this joke. I've never liked it because my kids are this age group, but the millennial, right? Because our kids, they say, have been raised differently than any other children. And, that it's so difficult for them to accept responsibility. I'm not saying this, I'm just saying what the stereotype is. Accept responsibility when it comes to a job or a leadership role or what have you. And, it's because they've been coddled and blah, blah, blah. Well, I think that when you see that everybody's a winner, for example, and they had that when my kids were growing up. Everybody was a winner. I can't speak for anywhere else, but I know here in Ontario that you can't fail anybody. So it doesn't matter if you get 0 out of 100 all year long. You're still going to go to the next grade. My whole point is, where do you strive for excellence, right? And I'm not talking about making competition here, but we should be able to measure our progress by something that we've done the day before. So when you realize at a very young age that mediocrity is acceptable, it is encouraged. And as you know, if you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't. If you hand in a paper, you do. If you don't, you don't. My whole point is that's not what life is like, because in real life, somebody wins and a lot of people lose. And you could see how that could be such a culture shock for somebody. That's why I've never liked that term millennial. But my whole point is, now what are we showing young children? That women can go out and kick butts. And again, we're getting back into the violence, right? About like women can go out and do this and do that and do this and do that and do this and do that. And yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things that women can do, and men too. But my whole point is, and I've seen this too, I've actually seen this where, for years, women have been allowed to hit men and men are not allowed to hit women back. and for very good reasons, but nobody should be hitting anybody. So I know there was one video in particular that happened to be on, and I think the Dell had it on. This was a couple of years ago, and there was a big crowd, and I forget what the pretext of it was, but the little 5-foot woman went up to this guy that had to be about 6'6" and was beating the crap out of him in the way, and he didn't lift a finger to her, and finally he'd had enough. And I think he slapped her. His face was bleeding from her hitting and clawing, and well, the look of shock on her face. You hit me. Like, I guess my whole point is it's just so barbaric. Like, what I'm trying to say is, I guess when you put that kind of predictive programming out there, like, what are we raising the next generation to believe? I don't know. I'm not trying to get all judgy or anything. It's just, I guess, with all this stuff that's coming out to the surface and what have you, did this need to be addressed, these topics? Yes. But it's like it swung so far to one side now that I think we've lost vision of where this all started. And you said, Dave, you said, again, I'm going to repeat, you said it has to do with the conditions of the solar system. Yes, including the ages. Yes. It may also be the human / reptilian hybrid that's causing the problems on Earth. Could be. Homo sapiens serpent. Yep, same here in the 90s too. Yeah, I hear you. Yep. And depending on who you talk to, that it's a reptilian part of the brain. And I guess I can't argue because you break the brain down, right to the brain stem. You get to a very primitive brain and responsible for physical actions for, to sustain life in the way of breathing and what have you. But I don't know. I again, there's so much food for thought out there. I guess maybe I've had time to get a little bit more philosophical and time to really, I guess, really look at things, with only being able to lay around. And again, I'm not naive. It's just, I just never understood it. And again, am I perfect? No, but I can honestly tell you, honestly, I have never hit anybody, ever. Never been in a fight. I've never raised a finger to my children, my animals, my partner, or anybody. And was it because I was afraid to? Or no, I made that decision as a very, very young child, growing up the way I did. And I'm not getting into that in the way of, oh, feel sorry for me, the way I grew up. No, it was just a different time and the way children were raised that way. But I remember as a very young child, I made a promise to myself that I would never, ever, ever do things like that to people I loved, and I haven't. And again, I say that not with judgment, because other people, even with children, um, you'll never see me jumping on the bandwagon with the spanking or whatever it is. I don't get into that because other people's children are their children. They're not my children. I just know how I want to raise my children, and that's what I've done. Um, it was kind of interesting, actually. I'm going to go back to that Johnny Depp trial because he was talking about the way he was growing up. And he said the one thing that it taught him, and it was almost like I could literally repeat word for word what he said with his very tumultuous, abusive type childhood, was the one good thing that came out of this was it made me an excellent father because I knew exactly how I wanted to raise my children. And it was the complete opposite to the way I had been raised. And he was right. He was. Now, some people may mistake that for if you're not beating or yelling at your children, there's no discipline. There's a big difference between discipline and punishment. I've never even yelled at my children. And I can tell you, I even have friends that I have grown up with that have called me a liar to my face. And for me, what I've tried to explain with my children, that no, I didn't have to. I said, I don't have your children. How you raise your children is your business. But was there not discipline? Of course there was discipline. My children knew what the rules were, and they knew that if mom wasn't happy, they were taught too that there were consequences, just not physical consequences. Because in life, you're not always going to get a physical consequence. You screw up at your job. You would hope that your boss isn't going to beat the crap out of you, but there's other types of discipline. You lose your job. So that's why I'm saying there's consequences. So I don't know. Interesting thoughts, anyways, with that being out there. When you look at that. Now, again, is it just another distraction to turn our head away from what's really going on? I've been noticing in one of the chat rooms that I'm on Messenger, well, it's a chat group. There's somebody out there, and it's not a funny topic, but this person has been putting out these narratives that there have been certain players with what's been going on that are higher ups that have been executed at Gitmo. And I only bring this up because if you've read one, you've pretty well read them all. But, when you see things like that, the first thing I don't know for myself is I step back from it and I think, again, we're nobodies. And I don't say that disrespectfully, but we are. We are going to be the last people to know what the heck is going on behind closed doors, or, you know, let's say the US military or anywhere else. They're not going to tell us. And then, like I said, I forget who's writing this. It's something Christian, and they get into all the details and the words that were said. And I won't say the names of some of these people they have claimed have been executed for their actions. But once you read one story, I don't know if you can hear my son hacking his lung up there. Um, it's just very interesting to read. And people that are lapping this up with a spoon. And again, I guess my whole point of mentioning this is, folks, if you're not really sure what to believe or what to read or what, I don't know, just a suggestion, and you don't have to take it. But, you know, I always suggest if something doesn't sit right with oneself to maybe take a look. Take a look in a lot of different perspectives if you're able to. If you're not sure where to look, utilizing a lot of different search engines versus just one. And then, taking a look at what's out there. How does this feel if you read it? And it's hard to be objective sometimes, but to step back and just see, how does this feel? Like I said, also ask yourself a question. Is this something that would be revealed to just blow public? Because that's what we are. We're just blow public. I don't care if you consider yourself a truth seeker, or, you believe that those that think they're truth seekers are conspiracy theorists, whatever it is. I think that that's where we have to start, is try it on and see, how does it feel? I don't know. You guys, I'm going to end a few minutes early tonight, and I apologize, but I'm starting to lose my voice. But I want to thank all of you that were in the chat tonight and helping with the conversation. And I'm sure there's comments, or there will be over on the other pages, which I will try to get back to in the next couple of days. But just to remind you guys, this is my new time for the Angel Rock, which is on Monday nights still, because a lot of people thought the night was changing. It's not. It's Monday nights from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you ever have any guest suggestions, like Dave made one in the chat here, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and follow up with that. Or maybe there's a topic you want me to talk about. Maybe there's somebody you're hoping maybe I might be able to have on here to interview, whatever that may be. I'd love to hear from you. The other thing is, if you ever want to get a hold of me in the way of to book a reading, I do mediumship. I do advice from spirit. A lot of people ask things like life purpose, or, decision processes and what. I have an angel board that I can use that comes out. Maybe we need to dip into the Akashic records. I've been saying this for months, but I do need to, once I clear up this flu thing I have, is I am going to film a video and show people what happens with crystal Reiki, because a couple months ago I did a presentation on it and people were really surprised what it entailed, but it can really help with healing, can help with breaking down some of the issues contributing to even some of the problems you've got going on in life and what have you. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can reach out to me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I also have two groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal. Love to have you join us over there. We've got people from all over the world, all different walks of life. Well, both groups actually. But if you've got any pictures or maybe you've got some crazy paranormal stories you want to share, I'd love to have an evening just of storytelling too. You can join me, like I said, on Paranormal University. I also have the Angel Rocker Tribe for all things esoteric, teaching you how to access your own intuitive gifts. There's people that post daily card readings in the group. I try to post things with teaching, all kinds of things like that. So I'd love to have you join in both the groups. Paranormal University has well over 1,000, and the Angel Rocker Tribe is getting pretty close to 1,000. So I'd love to have you join us over there. So I will be back next Monday at the same time. I ask of you, please, to share these shows with your friends or people you think may enjoy the content. They can listen to the replay on YouTube or anywhere where podcasts or talk radio is carried. And love to have you share and download. So that could be iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean. Those are just a few to name. I think Joe Montaldo has us uploaded to like well over 200 different between apps, websites, you name it. So I'd love to have you share the content. And I want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight, joining in the conversation, sharing your ideas. Stay tuned, please, because we have the Julia and Phil Syracuse coming up at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern with the Horsefly Chronicles. They fantastic hosts. They've got great guests, really knowledgeable about the paranormal. So stay tuned and hang out with them this evening. And I send you guys all so much love and light. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys may be. And we'll see you next Monday. Take care.